One of the reasons around here that we have been proud to help in the investing in talent and media building business is because we've gotten to see people like Pablo Torre and Mina Kimes and Bomani join us and then skyrocket to new things. It's one of the reasons that Samson is with us now, and Tony and Jessica. So you can have another career that gets bigger as you go, that can use Meadowlark or can be bigger than Meadowlark. Have we had around here any days that we can live back-to-back vicariously through someone's success better than Mina Kimes being a figure who was on The Simpsons one day and then the next day announcing that Netflix, she's part of their Christmas Day NFL package because she's got freedom outside of ESPN to work on other properties.
I'm so happy for her success, but I think I was also named to Netflix's NFL coverage. They have 2 games, and it was like 130 people on one graphic.
I would not diminish what it is Mina has accomplished there. I'm
not diminishing it either. It's a lot of people.
He makes a good point. Like, a lot of people have noticed there's a lot of people involved in the NFL Netflix thing, and it's 2 games.
Lorenzo's on it.
Bert Kreischer's on it.
But it's 100. It's a top 100 important people who matter on Christmas Day around football thing, and you can't diminish it just because we're not on it and she is.
I swear to God, when I first saw the graphic, I thought it was like a Forbes list of like up and coming media people because there were so many people on it. And then I saw the Netflix logo. I'm like, wait a second. This is for 2 games?
I was making fun of her because I thought The Simpsons scrubbed the ethnicity out of her. Like her cartoon, it looked like Orlovsky.
Well, no, there are pretty hard rules when it comes to that in Springfield. I don't want to get into it, and you should not either.
I didn't want to get into it, but here we are nonetheless because I thought these were 2 nice. Well, I thought they were 2 nice days, and now we've ruined them with our analysis. Like, I thought that they're 2 biggest days that anyone around us has ever had back-to-back in terms of media accomplishments. Back-to-back days?
You're talking about Taylor?
Well, let's talk about Taylor for a second because you've been wanting
Scoops. Please call him Scoops.
You've been wanting to make him a star, and I'm reluctant. So let's just start.
Well, no, I'm not going to give him Shadow Show. This is main show, Bright Lights.
No, let's. That's why I was just settle down. All right,
he's a star.
Settle down. Settle down.
He kicked Adam Schefter's ass.
I'm settled.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in a cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Before we get to Tua's home security, Jimmy Butler, and all the sports stuff of the day, including Bill Belichick, I just want to put a bit of Meadowlark tension business in front of the people. David Sampson is here. He's in the innards of our business because it needs a vigorous janitorial scrubbing, the innards of our financial business. And when the corporate people start doing the focus groups, what comes back to me is some form of too many voices. You got too many voices on the show. Focus groups, too many voices. There are too many people talking. And Mike Ryan's out here saying, give me more Taylor. While I'm going to Flanagan's and someone saying to me, less Taylor. Mike Ryan is insistent on making Taylor a star. I don't feel he's any kind of special, but what he has is an arrogance about him that makes him think that when North Carolina gets Belichick, he wants to do a rant. He wants the entirety of the show to do a rant. And I'm like, who are you?
Not the entirety of the show, Dan. He just wants some shine. I mean,
A
he had
segment.
a big day. There was nobody more plugged into the biggest story maybe in the history of college football. And you just want to poo-poo that. One guy comes up to you at Flanagan's and you make your whole mind up.
Dork, by the way.
And then, by the way, 10 days later, Taylor's the biggest insider in the sport.
Exactly.
Well, let's get to the story because he did tell all of us, and he was casually breaking news around the office. He did have this before everybody, that the most successful professional coach ever was making the shocking leap into the minor leagues of football by going to a program that's not even one of the better programs that anyone would associate with great football.
This is one of the biggest scoops of all time. And I think as a reward, we should also, look, you're giving your own company a reward there. You want to tout the success of others like Mina. Taylor's right there. He's a star that is ascending. You should give him some mic time.
I've had the show polluted by college football. Jessica only wants to talk about bowl season starts Saturday. The playoffs start Saturday as far as Jessica's concerned.
No, I want to talk about Bill Belichick going to UNC with Taylor, Dan. You're not going to poison this room against one another. We all want to hear from Taylor today.
Well, I don't
You
know
don't need
where
Dan to
he
do
is.
that.
Bowl
I don't-
season can wait.
Okay, I don't know where he is, but fine.
Can he
let's
do the rant?
Let's
He
do
can
a
do the rant?
victory.
He
No,
can
not
do-
the rant. Not
You can do a rant. Hit him!
A rant?
Dan Le Batard, you put air quotes around me as a Carolina insider after I told you specifically Freddie Kitchens was coaching UNC in the Fenway Bowl. You heard the word kitchen and stopped listening to everything I said after.
Yeah, get his ass!
So this is the story.
Give it to me again!
I told you this was done and finalized. Adam Schefter said there were still hurdles. Schefter, that ink was dry, and the only hurdles were the one I was leaping over as I ran circles around you.
He did. I mean, he did run circles around Schefter.
Where was Mike's hand during that?
I don't know what you're talking about. That's all. That's the only way that Taylor appears anywhere in my life is the way
He's
that
a
you said
megastar. Give it to him again!
SMU, you invented cheating in football and didn't win shit. Our head coach perfected it and won 6 Super Bowls.
He did do that. Yes.
Amazing core strength.
I'm pretty sure that that Taylor didn't want Bill Belichick in North Carolina, even as he was breaking the news.
Give it to him again!
ESPN, the 4 biggest letters in sports, got scooped on the biggest college football story of all time by someone living in Miami's smallest studio apartment.
It's not affordable to make a media career here. It's just not.
Not a lot of options.
It is no. It is not a great place for media uprising. Belichick is going to try and dominate that sport, or just hand over a program to his son. I don't know. I want to get into the details of that, but I've got to let him continue doing his
Dan Le
victory
Batard,
lap.
you tried to bring your school down. I only lift my school up. Together, like the phoenix from the ashes, rising as one. The only way Miami could lift you is with a forklift.
Come on. It's a
Those
cheap
damn
joke.
Pell Grants,
Jessica,
man.
you like that forklift joke a little too much. Jessica, I'm shocked by your fat shaming.
He's got more, Dan. He's got more. Put it back.
Duke football, welcome back to another decade of irrelevance.
I can't believe that Jessica piled on with the fat shaming. I thought the lowest I would stoop this week is when I claimed that people, that if David Sampson got off an elevator with a woman, she would ask where his parents were. I thought that that was the cheapest, lowest, least subtle joke told this week.
Believe me, there is no end to your low lack of subtlety.
Does he have any more?
Dave Clawson, what are you still doing here? UNC's mascot is a ram with big balls, and now their head coach is the GOAT with even bigger balls.
Very good.
Oh, I can't wait till he plays against the slow mesh.
I am looking forward to Belichick against Cristobal. That should be
Did you say Mario Cristobal?
Mario Cristobal and whatever's left of Life Wallet. Best of luck against Bill Bleepin' Belichick and his giant throbbing $20 million endowment.
All right. He's a walk-on at North Carolina football. That's where all his information comes
Stop saying
from.
walk
Yeah,
on
what
like
is that
it's a
supposed
like a
slur.
slur.
Stop.
Where were you
It
a
sounds
walk-on
like a
at?
slur.
Nowhere. The Sizzler.
That's another food joke.
Another one.
5 minutes in.
I stopped listening
Whoa.
at Kitchen. I did. I stopped listening at Kitchen. Sizzler's delightful. I will not have you shame me about loving Sizzler. Forklift jokes, I think, are a little far.
2 more times.
2 more.
Our mascot's name is Ramses. ACC, just wait until Bill Belichick rams D's, and it's all captured on a Ring camera for the entire nation to watch.
You're red hot. Go again, kid.
I have to find where I was.
He's reading from notes and he's screaming. Turn down.
Brett Key, you better lock every door at practice and throw away that key because Bill Belichick is strolling into town.
He ran out of gas.
So much spit on my
Okay.
microphone.
All right, enough. Thank you for all of your contributions to Meadowlark Media. The story in front of us, David, is unlike any that I have ever had context for in my career. So I want you guys to walk me through something that I have found confusing. The greatest coach in the history of football was available to everybody, and the pros did not want him for a variety of reasons that have to do with personnel, you didn't win without Tom Brady, you want too much power, et cetera, et cetera. But that coach then goes to North Carolina, and what breaks out is an argument where I am seeing the polar extremes of the argument being expressed very confidently on both sides, where people feel like they know coaching and the new college football enough to assert with conviction on both ends, there's no way this can work, or he's going to run over everybody. And so I'm confused how this person is available to this program. He's going to go in with Mike Lombardi. He's going to go in with whatever he's got of professional Patriots way and be like, let's go, Ryan Day. What do you have? You want to see what it's like to build a corporation in the business of football? I've done that as a football coach. So I think he's going to go down there and conquer. But I'm stunned by the number of people on the other side who are like, too old, game has passed him by. And they're just as strong in their opinion as I am here.
There is no way that we know, and I'm going to tell you why. The $20 million, which you just sort of threw away, that's a big – he has a payroll. He's going in with the GM, he's going in with the payroll, and he's basically forming a pro team. So that's what we should be talking about is what is the reaction that college sports – it's not college sports anymore. I mean, Jessica's now going to be the expert in pro sports because
it already is, David. It already is pro sports. What just happened?
He has a full organization, Dan.
When Andrew Luck comes and takes over as a middle manager for Stanford, and we are watching these things become these multi-million-dollar businesses in front of us, Bill Belichick just said, "Okay, you know what I get to do at the end of my career? I'll just be Bob Kraft." I'll be Bob Kraft. I'm not going to watch his documentary about how he won those Super Bowls, how he and Tom Brady. No, I'll build my own shit here and I'll give it to my son. And I'll give family football legacy to my son when I hand it over. It's such a balls move in your 70s to say, I don't need the last 14 NFL wins to pass Shula. I'm going to build my own empire down here in the minor leagues of business because I've won the major leagues of this business.
Balls move indeed. I think what people are reacting to, Dan, is the fact that you could think of any quote-unquote surefire hire in college football over the last 20 years. A lot of them don't work out. It's impossible to predict who will or will not be a good college football head coach. There's a million things that go into it. And so doubting that someone who's never done it before, especially in this new era of NIL and the transfer portal, could possibly not be good at it, I think is like, you're probably more better off guessing that than saying like, oh, he's going to be awesome and great. Because it doesn't happen that often.
Okay,
it's a hard job.
It doesn't happen that often, but it has never happened ever that this person is available to a college program. And so when I tell
Bill
you...
Walsh?
that
Oh, remember Gruden to the U? How we capitalized the U in Gruden with Jay Gruden as a succession
I
plan.
actually don't remember that.
Oh,
When was
I was
that?
ready to throw a parade.
we'll get to Gruden in a second, and Gruden's polo and Gruden's barstool career as well. But for Bill Belichick, if I were to just simply say to you, never mind what you've seen over the last 5 years that might confuse you about college football business and also might confuse you about, hey, who should get the Patriots credit on that? Is it Belichick? Is it Brady? Is it Kraft? Like, is that transferable? Because it wasn't transferable to any of the assistants, but can Bill Belichick just take that with him? If I just say to any of you, hey, guys, how good do you think Bill Belichick will be competing with $20 million at football, $20 million payroll and whatever it is that he's going to now raise because Deion Sanders has made Colorado a money-making machine. So surely that moneyed area is going to pour all sorts of money into, I want to beat Texas too. What do you say to me when I say to you, I'm giving Bill Belichick $20 million to compete at football with a bunch of other people who have only $20 million at the business of football? Do you think he's going to be okay in building whatever needs to be built there to run a $20 million business successfully, a $20 million payroll successfully? Wouldn't most of you say he'll figure out what needs to be figured out to be smarter than Mario Cristobal?
I think he enters whatever people may believe about Bill Belichick and his record without Tom Brady. I would say that knowing the level of coaching in that sport, they roll into most games with a sizable tactical advantage with Bill Belichick there. And I think a lot of people are doubting his ability to recruit talent. This is all about talent accumulation in this sport. He won his 8th Super Bowl 5 years ago. All the kids that he's recruiting right now know him to be the single greatest coach by a wide margin. He doesn't have the wins record, I get that, but he's the greatest coach of all time. I don't think it's going to be an issue. And as Taylor touched on, we're talking about Bill Belichick. The guy secretly taped Super Bowl practices, deflated footballs.
He's going to be working 20 hours a day to win.
He taught Nick Saban everything he knows.
He's crazy.
He's going to be perfectly fine in this seedy underworld of college football.
And he's financed.
The only issue is in those finances and him being the person who's going to be pulling the strings and, this guy deserves this guy deserves that. He hasn't had a great track record the last 10, maybe 15 years of getting free agents and making them worth the money that he
His
paid
talent
them.
evaluation has not been great.
Shaky.
Yes, I hear that. I keep hearing that, especially from Miami fans. He just has to open up 247 Sports, see how they've ranked the guys, and then he walks into a room, and after he flirts with the player's mom, he'll get them to commit.
What I'm telling,
Sister.
look, David Sampson just made the point of Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh did coach at Stanford, and Bill Walsh was fine and innovative, but he didn't conquer everything. I'm asking, when you mention him, he's financed, I'm asking about the money opportunity that Bill Belichick and the economy around him has decided is the next play for him. Nick Saban, I'm watching, be the only guy with the credibility of the weight to be on Disney television and not get bleeped on live television for cursing because he's got a power and sway as a voice for college football. This is the man who taught Saban how to be Saban, available to colleges at a time, okay, when the business of this, when I've talked to you guys about, don't you think it's interesting that Tom Brady and LeBron James and Dwayne Wade are now all competing for, and Peyton Manning for content and dollars and millions, that they're all competing around football and their sports to make the business of money work for them? Bill Belichick has just decided with the economy of his career, which could have been any number of media jobs that he just throws to the side now because he can have those whenever he wants, with management and with people tending to the career of the greatest there's ever been, he chooses in the shadows with a year to prepare. I'm going to build a thing that gets me to run my own family business in football, and I'm going to do it at a time that not everybody realizes that college sports is the new professional football and that there's a money opportunity and a career opportunity over there that will make me forsake passing Don Shula in the pros because in my 70s I can reinvent myself at being good at the business of this when all I got to do is beat Bielema.
Yeah, I think you're. He's a beast, by the way. I think you're a little too hung up on the business of this. He's not creating a template. The template he's creating is by putting his friends back in there. He's just recreating what he did in the NFL. These templates within its own conference has been around for a while. Miami had a GM with NFL personnel experience in Alonzo Highsmith, too. Miami was well-funded. That's going to be a huge hurdle for North Carolina. Can Bill Belichick engage their boosters?
Sampson said he was financed, though.
I mean,
He not only is he financed, I also personally.
we're all financed.
We're all financed.
in
He's
this
making
sport.
$10 million. So what you didn't mention out of all this, all of his media that he threw away, he wasn't making $10 million a year.
For me, it's his ability to walk into a room and say something that no one else in sports can, which is, I'm the greatest ever at developing talent and helping you win. I have all these relationships in the NFL. And look, Alabama sold for 15 years. We can get you to the NFL. Ohio State sells that to the receivers. We can get you. We have a tried and true program here that develops players to the NFL. That's what he'll sell. And it could be a couple of years before you take all the air out of that pitch. But it's a solid pitch coming from the greatest of all time. I'm not looking at the business of stuff. I'm looking at his ability to coach and his ability to walk into a room and have an aura about him that no one else can.
That used to matter way more, Mike, because remember with Alabama, the players weren't really being paid except for a car commercial once in a while.
They were all being paid over
So
there.
getting them to go to the NFL was not just to be the pinnacle of the profession, it was to make the money.
They were all being paid over
But they're all being paid way more now.
Yeah. But by comparison, they were getting paid way more at Alabama than they were getting paid everywhere else.
It's incorrect to say that they weren't being paid at all. But I think that the money, the promise to, $20 million, whatever the number is, I mean, that's 4 times what their NIL budget was last year. That's a huge deal. That means that they're actually willing to put a number behind their commitment to him, not just the 3-year, $10 million a year deal that they gave him. They actually want to be able to retain a talented staff in this college football era, and that costs money.
I understand having the questions. I kind of have them too, but I'm going to default to this is a pitch that no 18-year-old has ever received in certainly in our lifetimes. But how hard do you think he laughs at night over the last couple of days, knowing that Rhett Lashley just strolled into this conference and made it to Charlotte in his first year?
I want to discuss both parts of this with you guys because I do not believe that the people listening to this have a full fundamental understanding of how insulting it was to this man, given what he's done and how hard it is to do what he achieved, to have no job offers and have to interview multiple times in Atlanta. If you think this person who had to watch a documentary made by Bob Kraft for Apple TV that shreds him and explains how Kraft and Brady won all those Super Bowls together, if you do not understand that he is vengeant in what his pride is right now in making sure that as a football genius and glass eater, he is going to do whatever is within his means to not be as mortal as you think he is at his age, because he's not. He's immortal. And he's going to take that job and want to crush everybody with, I walk into every room as Bill Belichick, and Sampson's here saying no to $10 million in a media career for Belichick. McAfee was giving him $1 million to just show up. Belichick's name shows up in a room and North Carolina money's going into it. Deion Sanders just made a mint of money with a nowhere program, dancing and being Deion. This is a beast coming to college football. This is not a lazy old man that you underestimate because you're forgetful about what he did before the last 5 years you were watching. Do you know what it takes to win in that sport? Everyone is fighting for money, for careers with their bodies. This dude conquered everyone, had a murderer on the roster, went through cheating scandals, conquered that league again and again like no one has, and now wants to prove it in the minor leagues of professional football. I'd be terrified to compete against whatever he's got coming my way.
I don't feel good about it as a Miami fan. Look, that program's had my program's number, and that was when they had Mac Brown there. Now they have the greatest head coach of all time. Like, you can have your opinions. This is a major hire for UNC. This is a program that's a basketball school, an afterthought. This is a huge hire
Mike,
for the ACC and for North Carolina.
It's a major hire for sports, not just this sport. For sports, how Brady leaves Patriot Way and is like, oh, shit, look how much my brand is worth. this kind of winning championship, people inside and outside of sports pay $100,000 for 15 minutes in a corporate speech to hear what this man's wisdom is. Please don't make him an old fool because he's 73 and you think he's Mac Brown. Like, you haven't been paying attention to what this person does for a living.
Are you scared of him? Or what if North Carolina made an announcement that the coach was someone you never heard of, but the money was going to $70 million?
A coach you've never heard of. Who would that even be?
Yeah, I've heard of all the coaches.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
I mean,
Someone
that's a
not the
ridiculous
greatest
premise.
coach of all
I'm an
time.
expert. $70 million. That
I'm
makes
more
him-
scared of the money than
Robert,
the coach.
our IT guy. Make it Robert, our IT guy.
If they have $70 million in talent acquisition when the high end in this sport is like 25, yeah, that'd be really terrifying. But look,
Wait, hold on, Robert. There's 3 minutes left in the game. You have all 3 timeouts. The other team's on the 40-yard line. They're driving. They're trying to score. When are you going to use your timeouts?
All right, we'll interview Robert at the end of this segment. Robert, go get to your introductory press conference in the media room so that we can get Robert as the
With $70 million.
He's the fictitious coach. He's going against Belichick because he's got a $50 million advantage. It's Robert from IT, is what you're telling me. And so you're now going to interview him as if he's got a game against Belichick, or he's inheriting a program to compete against Belichick.
I think, all jokes aside, I think that North Carolina made a huge hire. And yes, I'm more nervous about this because this, to me, seems like a pretty obvious improvement over what they had. And you can have your questions. It sounds like this program is going to take a beat. What if he gets to practice and he realizes, damn, this entire roster is not up to snuff? That's going to take time. Even the greatest recruiters of talent, it takes a little bit for them to get their program in place. When you're talking about a 73-year-old, how much time are we talking about? These are all valid questions, but also I've seen the coaching inside this conference, and I've seen his career. I think he'll be fine in a one-game sample.
Yeah, it's a 3-year deal, so you have to figure, like, this gets people excited about North Carolina football. This invigorates the boosters. They see, here's what we can do with a really good head coach and a shit ton of money in 3 years. Let's set it up for the future and then see what happens after Bill Belichick. I think that they're trying to, like, set up this program for the next decade and get people reinvigorated about this football program.
I thought when Jim Larrañaga came to Miami that he was coming to retire, to take it easy, to take one last job, to just cash out.
You were right.
And I understand. Well, I wasn't right.
Particularly the last 2 seasons.
The last 2, this one, boy, did they lose
7 straight?
Charleston Southern
Yeah.
at home by 20.
Good news
they were
is-
a 25-point favorite.
Good news is, Dan, not only are we bad in college basketball, but according to Ken Palm, we're the unluckiest team of all time.
Well, but you're also bad.
Yes, yeah, that too, but also very
But
unlucky.
I accused him of coming down here to retire, and I was wrong. And in the subsequent 10 years, he built a program and fought the business well the last couple of years until recently. I want to talk about the entirety of Belichick's career management at this point as an enterprise. He doesn't want to lose forever. What do you mean Brady was responsible for all my success? Like, he doesn't have any reason to need to do any of what he's doing, except he is built to try and win at these things. What?
He got 5 years, $50 million.
So you think that that's...
At 73. There are not a lot of 73-year-olds who are able to monetize, and you just said, oh, McAfee gives him $1 million just for showing up. $1 million is not 50. And he sets up where it can be a family, and don't forget, always pleasing your dad. So there were a lot of factors. He didn't just wake up, poof, and say, oh, I'd go to Drexel.
I'm guessing that Belichick was making $10 million a year in his media career. I'm guessing.
Take the under and pound it.
He was doing so many jobs, David.
He did have a lot of jobs. But probably, closer to 5?
He was selling his name everywhere, and people were competing for that name. Grant me a little bit that I know a little bit about what is being done when people come into the content space and can cash in on their name. Like when he's helping Tom Brady with his pod, these guys know the value. This is a sports brand name in America's most popular sport, better at excellence than any of them. Like, you will not make this a dirty old hobo who's fishing on the side and walking shirtless out of his girlfriend's apartment behind me and looking.
You're the only
Exactly what he's
person
doing.
making him a dirty old hobo.
No, because I feel
You're the one that's mentioned his age more than anyone else.
because I feel like he's being disrespected in what the assessment of the questions are, because they're so extreme on the other side of this, as if the last year of the NFL not hiring him erases that he conquered it for a quarter century.
But it's a what have you done for me lately kind of league. And that's where we are right now. The last couple of seasons in New England were not great. People were not happy with what he was doing. So now you take all that for professionals and then you move it up to college, and it's like, is that going to be just replicated there?
He's about 3 years older than Greg Cody.
Would you give Greg Cody a 5-year deal right now?
If you gave me Drake May
To live?
Can you imagine Belichick with Drake May a couple of years
He
ago?
just missed him too. On the way here and way
wait.
back.
You guys think then there would be all these questions then? Because I understand the Patriots didn't do anything when they failed at a first-round quarterback. No team does. Like, when you get it wrong at that position, there's no coach that can overcome it.
He's going to be able to get superior talent. I'm worried as all hell because right now Miami is looking at the transfer portal, looking at the names that might possibly jump in there, and you felt pretty good about your chances, and Bill Belichick saunters into a room. You feel a little bit worse about your chances. This is a grim reality.
I feel like everyone's seeing him in the media right now, and they're like, I could see this guy being a good recruiter. I hope at his introductory press conference, he goes back to Coach Belichick. It's just like, hello, I'm happy to be here. We're going to take one game at a time. It's on to Syracuse. And
Deacons.
I'm just saying, like, if he goes back into that mode, we were talking about him not connecting with NFL players, and now we're just expecting him to connect with younger
All right,
people.
He does connect with younger people.
All right, wait a minute.
That is
Okay,
proven.
okay.
Different connection.
Okay, but he doesn't. He will be a curator, okay? And he will hire an assortment of people who can do all this connecting that people are very worried about how much that Bill Belichick had in common with Richard Seymour, because that was the place. You know, they went to a place emotionally, coach and a previous generation. You guys are doing it wrong when it comes to what I think is happening here. And I want to ask Samson what he thinks moves with Belichick. Lane Kiffin, charming, nice, we all like him. When I saw him at FAU with very small players, I'm like, wow, they're really good, well coached, and he is running roughshod because he's better. He's more of a professional. He is out coaching this person over here who's an amateur by a lot. That's Lane Kiffin. What do you guys think surrounds, as a management team, the economy around Bill Belichick, champion excellence for all time? I've seen Don Shula in this town get an expressway named after him, get steakhouses just because of that name. When he lands in North Carolina with that name attached to that excellence, that I'm asking you, what do you think the management team of his looks like, even when you consider the whatever you think Dan Lanning's entourage of people is?
Well, I think we have a pretty good idea of what this entourage is going to look like. It's going to be Patricia's. It's going to be his son. It's going to be Lombardi. It's going to be,
Josh McDaniel.
Guys that have been around his staff. And that's fine. And you can poke holes in guys like Patricia and Lombardi. But I will tell you, in this world in college football, those guys not only come in with way more cachet than everybody else, but probably a lot more skill than most of the people that they're competing against. The resources is one thing. Look, man, Wake Forest doesn't have like a huge football team around it. They don't have a huge scouting network. They don't have all these things that they can put in front of a recruit and say, I have relationships. Look, if you go into the draft, I have a deep relationship with the Tampa Bay Bucks coaching staff, and I can improve your chances on getting you where you want to be. Selling the NFL and relationships in the NFL is commonplace in that sport. Harbaugh had plenty of success doing it.
Yeah, I think there's probably some places where he has advantages over other coaches, but probably also where other coaches have spent decades in the college game and have advantages that he doesn't have, because ultimately it is a different ecosystem. It's a different atmosphere. It is a slightly different game than what he's used to, and so it may take an adjustment period. That being said, David Drexel ended their football program 50 years ago.
No,
It was
did not.
a great name to drop, though, by David.
50
The
years
Drexel
ago?
Dragons last season was 1973.
We've mentioned it for years when talking about
Drexel?
this program. No, the North Carolina Tar Heels, when it comes to football, this is a sleeping giant. All their resources mostly diverted to basketball, but if they ever engage that alumni base, if they ever tap into the revenue, because I've told you, this school is more well-positioned than anyone else inside the ACC to be an attractive commodity for another major conference.
But this is the part I want to talk with you, and Jessica and Lucy about, because you have seen some of the innards on what it is to be the money management around NIL and how some of this is shifting. The thing that I keep asking you guys when I mix the business, the economy, the legend, the name, the brand of all of these things is I want to ask Samson as an expert in business and you guys as people who know this business, what's it worth for an agent to walk into a room anywhere in town and bring Bill Belichick for 15 minutes so the local furniture guy wants to give $10 million because he gets 15 minutes with Belichick? Phil Knight figured this out when he bought the college program and put Nike on Oregon, and he could do in the skybox the remote control stuff. Bill Belichick is coming to North Carolina to play video game football with a giant business that has potential in it. And what I'm asking you guys about the economy and the money managers, tell me how the agents are going to turn this into a business, because Bill Belichick is worth more than what they're paying him. Like, just the name walking into the city is worth the amount that they're going to be paying him for 5 years.
I mean, you just think about the obvious accounts that he can engage. There's been frustration around Chapel Hill that Michael Jordan doesn't give enough to the basketball program, and his whole attitude is, I give you your uniforms. I give you the jump man. I'm the greatest of all time. But he can certainly be more engaged. I think his experience in NASCAR shows you what you can get when you get an engaged Michael Jordan. He coached Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor has some money. I think that he can absolutely get more from these boosters. Hell, Dan, this move was born out of boosters giving more than ever. Look at the recent hires. Does this seem normal to you? Rich Rodriguez going back to West Virginia, Dan Mullen going to UNLV, Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. This is all born out of boosters giving more than they've ever have, and the accountability being higher than it's ever been, and people are getting desperate.
So what the schools do is they're now saying to their donors, they're saying it used to be that we'd give and we'd spread it across maybe some players. How about some facilities? We want to improve our facilities. We haven't really seen it leak the way it has from coaches maybe the last 5-10 years. But now just the numbers are bigger. That's really all we're talking about.
But I'm talking with you guys about what's this all worth, because...
To who, though?
Well, let me do it this way with you, because we've been watching over the pandemic. Like, this is a pretty seismic change that we're living in this sport as it explodes in front of us. Streaming everywhere. WNBA is exploding. People are looking for value everywhere. Television contracts, insane. Sports is the place. There's a giant business burgeoning everywhere. College football in the last 5 years is a totally different thing than it has ever been.
It's pro.
And it's more important, more relevant, bigger stakes, more professional than it's ever been. And it happened as soon as the players started asking for money during the pandemic, and then everything caved in, and everyone sees that there is money everywhere. When I tell you we're on the ground floor of this really exploding into a business, when it can welcome someone like Bill Belichick, when it can lure someone like Bill Belichick to compete at the top of what the money in this sport is, how much money is it worth? When Deion Sanders comes to Colorado, you were the worst program. And for 2 years, you've just been cashing checks. Like, he's so underpaid. He's in all the commercials. And now it's Bill Belichick. I'm asking you, name, optics, sales, business credibility. What's it worth? Because I really feel...
clearly $50 million
No,
to North Carolina.
I feel like they're getting him cheap. I feel like they're getting him cheap.
I'm going to give you a price, Dan. You want to hear a price? Because now people are trying to buy the teams. So you talk about boosters, they're actually going to be owners of college football teams. So you're going to not have to rant or guess what teams are worth. Someone could come in and buy the North Carolina football team. What is that team worth today? Well, all I know is they've got huge expenses. I haven't seen one concomitant increase in revenue. They haven't been to the CFP. They get conference money.
Haven't won the ACC since 1980, I think.
It's so that's a lot. That's more than Drexel.
Did you say rant? Did you say rant? Give it to
Mario Cristobal! I looked into my crystal ball, and it says that you will never win an ACC title. You had a life wallet. We have a Belichick.
I didn't know he was going to do that one.
That's a repeat.
Belichick.
Sounds like life wallet.
Belichick. I think
One more time!
I think he thinks
Bill O'Brien, you learned at Bill Belichick's knee. Now prepare for him to bend you over
much yelling. It's you
Spitting.
gotta be more subtle than that.
Dabo Sweeney is on the record as being a God-fearing man. Dabo, congratulations. Next December in Charlotte at the ACC Championship, you get to meet him yourself.
Are there many things like this that I can say in the modern media age? Because I don't think that there are a lot of Seth Wickershams out there. And we're in the information business, but when Ronan Farrow does something, I want to pay attention to what Ronan Farrow does. And when there's news around the Patriots, Seth Wickersham is your guy. He and Don Van Natta, Pulitzer Prize winner, have investigated like the innards of excellence of all Patriots things, including Jerry Jones spitefully as a high schooler keeping Bob Kraft out of the Hall of Fame just because it's funny. These guys have done the real reporting about a private organization, and I just received a notification. New Seth Wickersham piece on Belichick just dropped. And I ask you guys, Wickersham is dropping now music. He's dropping. There are pieces and they drop. Wickersham has arrived at pieces like this is between Woj bomb. This is before Woj bomb, and it's not a Shams bomb. But when a piece has dropped,
this is like the new Kendrick dropping for sports nerds.
It is, correct? Wickersham.
For sure.
The new Wickersham just came out.
And the headline of the story on ESPN says, "Sickened by the politics of the NFL, Belichick aims for a college restart." And what I want to know is, after this, who's going to write all the think pieces about no one wanting to work in the NFL anymore? Because when Jeff Hafley went to the NFL last year, it was like, no one wants to work in college football. These jobs are too hard. Who would ever want to be a college football coach? And now Bill Belichick's like, me.
Bill, if that's the spin, then maybe this isn't going to work out. If you were sickened by the politics in the NFL, then hold on. I thought you knew what you were getting yourself into and kind of reveling in it. This is no. This is dirtier than you can even imagine if that's the case.
We're going to get Wickersham on here in a second to talk about this, but I really do think that Mike just brought up something fascinating that hasn't turned a light on for me as a business opportunity since we were talking in 2009 and being like, why wouldn't LeBron and Wade and Bosch get together and just have a lot of fun playing basketball if they're all free agents at the same time? It seems like that would be fun. As a business opportunity, Michael Jordan, end of his career, tried with The Last Dance to, remind you who he was. A disaster as an owner. To be able to team
in basketball.
In basketball, no.
As an owner, very successful.
No. Solid NASCAR owner trying to actually change the sport.
Solid Hornets owner.
Terrible.
Rate of return?
No,
wait, what are you talking
in terms of on-court
success?
Terrible.
Success.
Yes.
Made money. Good for business, but if Belichick were to team up with Jordan on the restoration of the North Carolina program because Belichick could Nike it up, because Belichick, how hard is it for two guys of that kind of excellence, two people in that sphere to team up on something to make North Carolina matter when Jordan's got the end? Jordan's ending on sports legacy was never supposed to be about just money. It was supposed to have some winning in it.
I don't know what I'm doing where I think Bill Belichick's odds of getting Jordan more engaged on the football program are higher than, Larry Fedora's, but I just kind of believe that because he can talk to him from like a goat-to-goat level that no one has, at least in the football program. But Roy Williams has been able to talk to Michael Jordan that way. There is a level of frustration that he does plenty, but not enough. Can he do more? I got to believe in my heart of hearts that Michael Jordan's going to be a little bit more engaged, and that helps.
You think Jordan will have the epiphany, oh, God, it's Belichick, the best ever, now I'm going to give?
That's what
I've been waiting for.
I kind of believe that without knowing either of them. I kind of believe that.
I don't actually. I think both of you are thinking of it too small. Jordan, giant of giants. Nike, giant of giants. When Phil Knight wanted into college football, what he did is he was benefactor to Oregon football, and he made it what it was. In the new evolution of where Michael Jordan wants to compete for dollars or in sports, being the owner of the North Carolina program, however it is you can consort with your Nike people and Belichick to build a giant, vibrant nuclear sports thing in North Carolina, like there's a giant business opportunity here for everybody.
Well, now you're talking about something different, which is former sports owners and, look, even Saudi public fund have kind of poked around. Can we have equity and buy your brand, your college basketball program, your college football program. David knows a little bit more about this certainly than I do, but it seems as though this is all heading in that direction.
David,
and
why
if Michael
would-
Jordan is
happening
looking
now?
at it like, I get equity in this
David,
program?
why wouldn't all of these entities team up, Nike, Michael Jordan, Bill Belichick, to get North Carolina
Well,
to the
Nike's
top?
conflicted out. They can only buy Oregon, apparently.
I know, but I'm saying Michael Jordan through look, he's got a whole different arm of Nike. Michael Jordan allegiance. Could Michael Jordan not? Let me ask you this. I give you right now access to Michael Jordan. And I tell you, Michael Jordan wants to be a successful sports owner, wants to still compete, wants to make money in racing and a lot of other places, and he would like to invest in North Carolina football in a way that makes him feel like a part owner of North Carolina football. How do you, as an agent, make all of that happen? Because I think there's a giant business opportunity here for Michael Jordan to be ahead of where college football is headed instead of behind it.
And the problem that you're dismissing is that when he takes over, when he gets into NASCAR, he gets into a lawsuit because he's not making the money that he wanted to make and the France family is. So he's willing to file an antitrust suit because of the business, not because he doesn't feel he's in a position to win a race. He's not in a position to monetize what he has. UNC, there's a ton of money being poured into it. That doesn't mean it's profitable. As a matter of fact, I would argue that the loss position they have as an entity is larger now because their
but
expenses...
if anyone knows the benefits of not being profitable and then still making tons of money, it's David Sampson.
Hell yeah.
In the end. So let's talk about the private equity aspect, because I happen to know conferences as a whole have been talking about private equity, but this isn't yet allowed, yet all these conversations are happening and all these billionaires are poking around these individual programs wondering if they can get a piece. How does this go forward? Why are these talks even allowed right now?
Oh, it's coming because these teams and conferences do need money. And so take a look what's happening. The Saudi Investment Fund, they're about to do a deal with the PGA, a huge investment into that alongside Fenway Sports Group. You've got individuals and private equity funds that got into the NFL, just approved yesterday with the Bills and with the Dolphins, just yesterday. And now you're seeing college. They're in the market, but they don't have a value yet. Pro teams have the value. They have not been able to separate out college programs because they're funding all the crap.
I don't feel like you've answered my question. I make you right now Michael Jordan's agent, and I tell you that the task is to make Michael Jordan the owner of the North Carolina football program, some form of it, whatever's allowed now. How do you go about doing that?
I'll give you the pathway, except he's had the pathway before Belichick. The pathway is you start as an investor, you start to have operational control, you start to be in charge of who will be the decision makers, and then you make an investment where then eventually it leads to ownership once that's approvable. But it's not a business right now.
Not right now, not yet, but it's about to be. I want a new insider around here. Mike Ryan's I Happen to Know. I happen to know the way it's delivered has just enough arrogance in it, and it's also, he's telling you, you've got to trust me on my credibility, and if I'm telling you I happen to know something, I'm presenting you with a fact, that it's a reported informational fact.
He's also telling whoever he's talking to that you don't know. Like, I happen to know is basically saying, whoever I'm talking to, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, you may know what you're talking about, but you don't know the way I know, where I happen to know it in a way that makes me right. And you may also be right, but you might be wrong.
You're not right. I'm right.
You might be right on whatever you think, but you're also occasionally wrong. But I happen to know has a weight to it that you were arrogant in. What was the information you were giving us again that came behind I happen to know?
Conferences
but
are talking
it
about
had
private
in
equity.
it, and I happen to know it had in it.
I've known it for a very long time.
Well-known fact.
Okay, no, but here's what it had.
I've sat on that one for
Roy,
months.
Roy, tell me if I'm right here. Mike Ryan's I happen to know was delivered with sort of the whiff, the scent of, I've talked to a conference commissioner here and there in the shadows. It had a whiff of, I talk to people in corners more than you do, or you would also happen to know.
Yeah, I can smell it from the bedroom.
It had.
He was in the kitchen cooking that up.
Jessica, what else did you smell in there? I smelled some cocktails and talking about NIL money with boosters.
Like a wet cave, Nosferatu by Heretic.
Ugh, doesn't smell
No, but
good.
like a pleasant wet cave. Look, it lingers.
I don't want to smell.
Like cheese.
He's wearing a Tom Brady shirt. It's very off-putting. By the way, I'm reading Seth Wickersham's story right now. That was hard to say. Very good. Bill, he definitely wanted to coach in the NFL, Dan, but guess what? The Bears don't want him. That
all
was
right,
the best option.
Don't
Seth.
ruin all of Seth Wickersham's
If I may,
reporting.
Can I reveal something? I was believing Taylor wholeheartedly last week, and then I was reaching out to some NFL sources. I'm like, guys, I'm pretty plugged into North Carolina. If you want this Bill Belichick thing to happen, I don't think this is a leverage play. I think it's pretty serious. And then he went to North Carolina.
Yeah, you and Taylor were talking in the shadows. You had it a week ago, but didn't tell anybody. It's the way that Meadowlark does breaking news. Talks about
Keep
it
to
over.
ourselves.
Yeah. The Meadowlark media way. We've got
eating area.
Stugotz reported it 4 hours before everybody else.
What a great slogan. We keep big news to ourselves.
But I do happen to know conferences are talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
private
okay. Enough with your happen
And
to
they
know.
poked around individual programs. They poke around every single program. This is not a unique thing. Everyone's got a private equity firm on line one, ready for that moment.
Taylor and Stugotz had it 4 hours before ESPN. Taylor had it a week ago. He was cutting off sweatshirt sleeves. Taylor knew before Belichick's agent reached out to him. Like, Taylor knew, and he was in on it, but we just didn't tell anybody. So Seth Wickersham has gotten to places because he gets news and he shares it with us. And he doesn't keep it to himself. And I was informed that a new Seth Wickersham piece on Belichick just dropped. And I'm wondering, Wickersham, have you gotten used to your pieces now just dropping? I don't know who else in sports media has the distinction. There are Woj bombs, there are Shams bombs. What are Schefter's things called? Pieces don't drop in our business anymore.
I think maybe I should go the Taylor route. I don't know.
I don't think that you
You want to hide under my desk and I can just prop you up every time you got a scoop like Scoops
I
Taylor?
love that.
Jessica, what have you read that's interesting in the pieces you're trying to catch up, because he is our foremost Patriots reporting authority?
Yes, Seth, hello. Nice to see you again. It's
Hey,
been a
good to see
minute. Seems like this was something that came about after Belichick was around a lot of college programs with his son this past year, and maybe initially wanted to be back in the NFL, but doesn't seem like it's a real option. So at what point did he finally sort of like start making the choice in his head, like, hey, I could actually be a college football head coach? Like, what was the timeline of that?
Yeah, it came about midway through the season, and it's been interesting. So every week, Belichick and a lot of his former assistants in New England, all of whom are, out of the coaching world right now, would meet on Zoom, and they would go through, every game and every team in the NFL, schematically, salary-wise, injury-wise, whatever trends they could spot. And it was all with the design of what jobs might be available, what jobs might be interested in Bill, and would Bill find them appealing? It's been kind of a rough, 2024 for Bill. I mean, he was fired in New England. The Dynasty series on Apple kind of roundly dismissed, his contributions to the Patriots' greatness. He wasn't able to get any of the jobs that were available in January and only got one interview. And I think that as he sort of surveyed the landscape and looked at the possible situations that he might be a candidate for and what he would be walking into, college began to look more attractive, where he would have more space and more autonomy to run a program his way. And I think if we've learned anything about Bill Belichick over the years, it's that when at a crossroads, he will do and take decisive action to take control of his career. And I think that's what he did here.
Wickersham, give us the best info in your piece. You get the reported stuff that no one else gets. What do you have that is the most interesting around this stuff that other people don't have? Jessica's busy reading it. It just dropped. I haven't been able to get to it. Yeah. So just give me the good stuff.
Well, I mean, there's people familiar with his thinking who think this is a big FU to the NFL, and that he had grown disenchanted, and disgusted was a word that I had been told, with the way that NFL teams are being run and the hiring decisions that, these owners are making. I mean, this is an 8-time Super Bowl champion who it was unclear whether he was going to get a job this next coming off season. And yes, he's got strikes against him, his age, his record without Tom Brady. the way the league is kind of generally trending, but you can't take his stature and his accomplishments away from him. And look, he would go on TV and go on his podcast and talk about all of these really basic screw-ups that were happening in the NFL each week. These people who had jobs that he didn't have, mostly in the game management and clock management situations, the situational football that he all but pioneered and mastered. And he can handle some of these situations, like the end of the Bears-Lions game, in his sleep. And yet he was having to describe for the masses exactly in excruciating detail all of these screw-ups. And I think that there was just something about the NFL that he had grown disenchanted with over the past year.
Hold on.
That's really what made college more appealing.
Seth, you're saying disenchanted, but you're also articulating some form of no one will hire me. Do you know who I am? This disgusts me. Like he's like, explain to me, wherever ego resides in the pride of winning the game of warriors, Bill Belichick at 70, knowing what he knows about what it takes to win, looking at the NFL, I have to interview how many times with Atlanta? You disgust me. Like, explain to me the pride hit that this has been.
Yeah, I think it has been. And I think that, imagine, it's like he has always coached and worked as if his self-worth is tied to the result in a coin flip of a game. And when he would lose games in New England and in Cleveland, I mean, it would take on an atmospheric type of level. I mean, it's like those losses would take on a life of their own. Imagine the quiet seething that someone with his stature and his accomplishments went through in January, having been shown the door by Robert Kraft after he helped make Robert Kraft billions of dollars and changed his life and legacy, got only one team was willing to interview him, and he didn't finish in the top 3 candidates. He had to listen to teams around the league almost kind of celebrate the fact that he wasn't in the league and that he was, quote, voted off the island, as Don Van Natten and Jeremy Fowler reported in April. And I think that there was, even though I think that he always thought he would, he'd prefer to maybe return to the NFL, or at least plan to, as they went through these weekly Zooms, in the middle of the season, things started to change a little bit. And all of a sudden, he was starting to analyze college programs a little bit alongside the NFL ones. That's when I think it became something that he was truly considering.
Seth, it's been said before that Bill is a young 72, whereas Mac is an old 73. Does Bill signing this deal with UNC all but ensure he will never coach again in the NFL, given his age?
Yeah, and I mean, Van Natten and Fowler in April had someone who's very knowledgeable with the way the NFL works, convinced that he was done coaching in the NFL. And, even though that can sound kind of shocking, and it was certainly shocking to me, you wouldn't know. And teams don't back channel communication as much as they used to. Remember, Brian Flores still has his discrimination lawsuit now in 2 years now. And so, teams weren't just saying to Bill Belichick, hold tight, we're going to hire you. It doesn't work like that anymore. And I think that, he was facing the prospect that he might not get in any of these jobs. You never know. And he might not want the ones that he might get. Whereas returning to a place like North Carolina, where he was as a boy when his dad was a coach, and kind of feeling that new challenge of the college game seemed really energizing to him.
Seth, is this sad? Because I've seen people with a take saying this is pretty sad for the greatest of all time to be essentially out of options and disgusted with the entire pro ranks, and he's just taking his ball and Matt Patricia, and he's going to Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a part of that just always going to seem weird. And, we've just grown up and been used to him patrolling an NFL sideline for so long. And I think that, he ran the New England Patriots with, trying to minimize the emotion in every decision making. And he got into some big contract battles with players over the years, released certain players, created a big uproar at times, could seem cold and calculating in how he handled things. And I think that he did try to improve that part of it as he went on as a coach. But the pro football is just a tough game, and very few people get to end it on their own terms. And I think that having a chance in college where he has the space to operate his way, and a chance to win or lose games on his terms, which is all he's ever asked for, looks more appealing right now. There's a lot of college coaches who are trying to get to the NFL, but I think there are a lot of people in the NFL who consider a lot of college jobs better than NFL jobs. The question is whether North Carolina is one of them and what he'll be able to do with that program, I think.
I've known Wickersham for a long time. I am proud of him. I'm proud to tell you he's got a new book coming out in September called American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. It's available for pre-order now. And I respect that while he was talking, Mike Ryan was somehow deeply apologetic because he thought he put Wickersham, an old-timey journalist, in a bad spot by asking him through his objectivity, isn't this sad? And then Seth didn't say it was sad. He did not. He would not say it was sad. So let me ask another question to you, a different way. Given the reporting you've done around football and how hard it was to actually accomplish what Belichick accomplished, how disrespectful has the last year been to Bill Belichick for you, an objective journalist?
I think it's been massively. I mean, again, firing, interviewing with one team out of 7 openings, not getting that job, everyone kind of dancing on the result of that and almost bragging about the fact that he wasn't in anyone's top 3. The 10-part Dynasty documentary, which was owned in by Kraft, and really, a lot of Patriots players were vocal about how they felt like that it minimized his contributions. And then looking at the landscape and thinking like, where do I fit into this? And, I think there's an element of it that is disrespectful, because look at his accomplishments and the fact that he's going on TV every week and having to explain basic decisions that he's mastered since 2001 that are happening on NFL sidelines. It doesn't reflect great on the NFL, I think, and the owners, that, a coach with 8 rings can't get a job. That said, who knows how this January would have played out. But I think that at the end of the day, he needed to take control of his career in the way that he saw fit. And he saw this as the best opportunity rather than waiting and playing the odds.
But he's going to North Carolina. It's not as though that he took over one of the schools that are ready, like in Alabama. So I think this just furthers the narrative that maybe it wasn't him, or maybe there's something else about the credit or the disrespect that he feels.
He must be Seth. He must be seething. He must be seething at how forgetful we are. I know we're dismissive of expertise, but like
he did win a Super Bowl 5 years ago.
I mean, just know all of it. It's not just won a Super Bowl 5 years ago. It's all of it. It was ahead of the game on everybody for 20 years.
Absolutely. And I think that like the media attention, and the way that the narrative has kind of shifted on him, right? As if the Patriots were all Tom Brady. And look, there's a lot of, great argument to be made about things. And obviously he was the one who opened the door for Tom Brady to leave, and Brady did, and he went on and won a Super Bowl. But, again, I mean, these are things that, like, he's drafted multiple Hall of Famers. Someone like Ryan Poles can't necessarily say that. Terry Fontenot can't say that. And I think that, like, again, as he surveyed the landscape, he knew that some of these teams, let's just say that the New York Giants wanted to hire him. He knew that team had some major pieces that it needed to fill and would take a little bit of time to do that. And the New York press was going to be on him. And it would be the 3rd year that in a row that he's been coaching. Obviously he's been out this year, but 22, 23, and then 25, that there would be a narrative that he had lost his fastball. And I think there was a part of him that just didn't feel like dealing with it.
Seth, last question, and I don't know if it's even fair, but I'm just curious. A lot of people talking about he can't connect with today's player. I don't know where he connected with Randy Moss, but he did. And I don't know whether a grandpa can connect with today's player, but I know nobody knew Ricky Williams, and Ricky Williams speaks of Nick Saban in a way that floors me in terms of where grandfathers can reach kids. So when Bill Belichick gets the criticism of there's no way he can connect here, you say what to that?
He's always been driven by a very intellectual approach. I mean, he can be emotional around the team when he feels like he needs it, but he has always his leadership has always been based on the fact that he puts players in the best position to win games, for the team to do well, and in turn that helps the players later on in their career get better contracts wherever it might be, whether it was in New England or someone else. I think that, personally, players respect knowledge, and when you lose them on that, like how is Eberflus ever going to go back to the Bears and try to lead that team after the debacle that we all saw at the end of the game against the Lions? I mean, players respect knowledge, and even if he delivered it in a cold-hearted way at times, or unemotional, or was pushed these guys to the brink, I think they all understood what he was trying to do, and I think that he will tailor his system to work with 17 and 18 and 19-year-old kids the way that he did. He tailored it to fit his rosters in New England.
That would have been a perfect time for Taylor his system, Taylor, but evidently
he's talking to Feinbaum's producers.
Yeah, he's prepping for Feinbaum.
Bathroom break. Wickersham, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it. Chris Cody, I didn't hear the last part of his answer because you were saying something in my ear. What did you say to me? Tell the audience so they can understand why I was laughing instead of listening to Wickersham.
I think Seth looks like Joe Burrow's older brother.
It's a good look.
That's a compliment, right?
I need the
welcome.
highlights, huh?
I mean, you looked like his older brother.
Didn't even say thank you.
He didn't say thank you.
You should. I mean, that's a compliment.
Your teeth are very white.
Okay.
That's another observation.
All right. And your writing is also very nice.
I find you handsome.
All right. Good seeing you,
Thank
Seth.
you, guys. Good seeing you guys.
Good. I'm glad we didn't make that awkward at the end.
Not at all.
Dan, he's a journalist. He's not going to tell you if he thinks Joe Burrow's attractive, because that would be him editorializing. Jeez, I can't believe I have to explain this to you.
Thank you for explaining it to me.
You're welcome.
Aren't you a journalist?
There are a number of things that I have learned from Jessica. Just yesterday, I learned from Jessica. It was an honest exchange. I had no fathoming idea that we were supposed to have been fed for the last 20 years as an entertainment group of people that were working 5 straight hours a day. Jessica explained to me, because there was some complaining about the bacon sandwiches, and then you come on here and you say the budget's too low, and I was proud of the fact that we served breakfast and lunch, and Jessica's correct when she says, well, no, that's what's standard. And I'm like, it hasn't been our standard. Like, for 20 years, nobody fed us.
Well, if you've ever been on a film or television set before, they have craft services, and generally people that work long shifts, they get fed.
Of course, our shifts aren't all that long, just in terms of hours. They're
It's like
hard,
coal mining.
but it's
They're pretty long.
When we were at ESPN, I would just not eat till like 3 p.m. every day.
I make more decisions than a fighter pilot.
The reason I am elevated on Belichick, and I hear myself, and forgive me, because it feels shrill even in my head. And so after 90 minutes of this, it's just pretty rare, right, David? When you do something for 20 years, it's pretty rare for a story to make an appearance that sort of jostles all of the stimulants, because you're confused at the macro on this, which is, everyone's been telling me for a quarter century that the great leaders know how to win, and they know how to do it better than the other great leaders who are trying. This is the greatest of them that I've seen in my lifetime covering sports, and I grew up in a town I saw Shula build around his excellence, okay? This coach has been better than all of them. The other previous greatest that you would put in this conversation, Saban, learned from him. This being available to me is emblematic of where it is and how quickly in America these days and throughout the world we devalue and dismiss expertise, because you guys have been telling me this guy is better than everybody forever, and now he's available and he's got to go slum for a job. He's got to create because everyone in the NFL says, the game has passed him by, and he knows what some of those knobs are. Like, he knows those cavemen on the sideline don't even know what clock management is.
I think, look, people want to have the debate who's more responsible for the success. You're talking about this like it's a hung jury. We know definitively he's the greatest NFL coach of all time. even if this ends up being a disaster, he is going to be the first name that comes up in these debates because no one's going to hold this against him as a 73-year-old. I think that he walks into the sport with plenty of cachet, walks into the sport with an advantage over most of the coaches in there. What puzzles me is what Seth said because it goes directly against everything that I've heard about the coaching ranks. Almost everyone in college is trying to get the hell out of there. It's a nightmare right now. If you try to pursue an NFL coach to join your college program, that's not happening. He's the only person that's like, I'm done with this. I'm going there. And he's trying to sell it as like, no, this is the wave of the future. This is way better. You have more control. That is not the room that everyone is reading right now. It just lines up in direct opposition.
I don't know. I don't know if you could say that blanketly about every coach in college football or every coach in the NFL. It seems like the backup plan if Bill Belichick didn't say yes was Tommy Rees, who is also in the NFL right now. Obviously, it'd be a big leap to take a head coaching job in college, and he comes from college as an OC. But I think that college head coaching jobs are still pretty attractive. You get paid a lot of money to coach football in college, and maybe some of the variable now is actually a little bit easier with revenue sharing if you're a head coach, and it becomes even more attractive in the next few years.
We know the most recent national champion came from there, was trying to get back for several years, needed the success to finally go over there. Ryan Day's been trying to get to the NFL since he got that job. I would say, and I know this, the vast majority.
I know this is a totally different.
Fact.
Wait a minute.
No,
and I know this is a different game.
I happen to know this. For real. FR, like, this is a tough job right now. It's a really tough job. It's fully demanding, and he's right to walk into the door with a huge support system. Everyone gets their job delegated to them, and he can just be across everything. That's the smart thing because it appears as though he's walking into the room with a bigger personnel team than most would.
It's a dream because he gets 5 years at 72, and there's no downside to legacy.
The part, though, that I wanted to place in front of you guys, because I do find this part, like, it's complicated. When you say that people are arriving at whatever the Wild West is of what do you mean the left tackle's got a Maybach? How are we doing this legally? What's legal? What's not legal? What are we doing? Okay, the floodgates have opened on the business of this. The part that I can't get my head around, and I do feel like is a fair question if you ask it, of even his expertise is, does he understand how maddening it might be that the 18-year-old now actually has power? And what that infection is going to look like when the 18-year-old every year can leave and be in the portal and they don't actually have to respect Bill Belichick's power, discipline, leadership, or whatever he's trying to form because the walls have caved in. I've said before, I would not want one of those jobs. Like, even if I had the expertise and you told me now, I've got to live by the whims of 18-year-olds who are fighting over money? Like, no, thank you.
You've been living with a salary cap.
No,
and the rules of a salary cap, which are far more complicated than the freedom of Carolina.
No, but wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let's talk about this for real, okay? This is also a lot of times relationships that you're having with the inner cities and families in the inner cities and all of the complications.
We did see Nick Saban do the Cupid shuffle in a living room.
He's got swag, though. That's the thing. I don't know if Belichick has the Saban swag. He might have taught him everything he knows, but he can't do the Cupid shuffle.
That's what I'm trying to say. You got to be
the left, to
He's
the
going to
left.
get the Jumpman sweatsuits.
You have to be broadcaster Belichick to pull this off. You can't go back to mumbling.
Necesita chispa.
You got to have some
Belichick has
personality.
no riz.
He's got Riz for days.
You can mumble with $20 million in your pocket.
I'm talking about getting recruits, though.
I think it's going to happen. We'll find out pretty quickly. Like he joins this program as the portal opens up. And as someone that helps with a program that is in the talent acquisition game that mines that portal, I am more nervous today than I was when Mac Brown was there.
Is that a look at me, Louie, or is that a name drop?
No,
What's
that's a
that
happen to know.
What,
No, that's
it's
canon.
a happen to
That's
know.
canon.
It's a I
That's
happen
canon.
to know.
Canon.
Are you guys not with me on this? On the idea of, I know, okay, yes, you want a high-paying job. But I would not want the job that comes with this kind of renegade. The rules are all changing right now.
Brother, you started a media company. Yes, you did.
I didn't know it was going to be this, and if I had known, I wouldn't have.
What?
Well, that's a morale booster.
No, I'm just saying I didn't
So
think
no more breakfast?
I didn't think it was going to be hard. I thought it was going to be easy. I don't think Belichick thinks this is going to be easy, but
Man, the Rhett Lashley thing was a bar. I mean, you look at the lay of the land of the coaches that he's going out there, and you ask anybody who's a better coach. I mean, they're going to be jokes compared to him. Dabo's the only guy that can be like, "What's up, pal?" And he's even become a joke.
No, but
He
Dabo
thinks it's going to be easy.
Dabo comparatively is a joke in the way
He's won 2 natties.
I know, but so did Les Miles. No, these people look compared.
You can't. Dabo's been to the playoff how many times? 7 times. Yeah, you can disagree with how he's run the program the last few years, but he's a very successful. He's one of the only 2 active head coaches that's won a national championship.
I'm not arguing that he's not successful. I'm not arguing that he hasn't done
Say he's good, Dan.
one of the hardest things.
Said he was a joke.
He's good in the eyes of the Lord.
Which is he made Clemson stop feeling like perpetual punchline, always going to lose Clemson. But when you look at Dabo Swinney's history and how it is that he got that job, what you are telling me, if you think Dabo Swinney is Bill Belichick, is that the guy who just happens into an interim job and then finds his way to the success ladder in making Clemson better is Bill Belichick. And there's no one listening to this who would say that if Dabo Swinney is coaching against Bill Belichick, that it's not Belichick with whatever the substantive advantages
Thankfully,
are.
no one said that. We made it up.
He's not a
thing.
joke. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
he's
Dabo's the only person that has any cachet that can be like, "Hey, guy, like, look at us, winners."
He's more successful than Belichick.
I'm saying that everyone comparatively that he will be coaching against is a joke.
Everyone is more successful at being a college coach than he is.
Every
so
one
how
of
about
them.
that?
Yeah.
They all have more victories.
Talk to me when you beat TCU week 1, Charlotte week 2, Richmond. That's got to be a dub. Hopefully you're 3-0 at that point. 2026, Mike. Notre Dame and Miami both play UNC. That'll be year 2 of Bill Belichick. Ooh,
Oh no!
I'm
no,
nervous.
thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You happen to know what
I
the
happen
line
to know
is?
that I will be shitting bricks that day.
I wouldn't want that job, man. I would not want the responsibility of a 17-year-old can decide whether I'm happy that day or not. You guys tell me if you were surprised at all by something that happened yesterday. I don't know why this caught me off guard, but it did catch me off guard. So beyond Jessica being fascinated by that Joe Burrow story yesterday and just athlete burglaries in general, because you know where they're going to be and their home or their families when they're playing might be unsecure. And so I hadn't thought about that in a long time, since talking, as I mentioned yesterday, to Anton Jameson a long time ago about just going to extreme security measures with his home and driving around his neighborhood several times just to make sure that somebody wasn't going to try and grab his jewelry in the driveway with a gun. And I just hadn't given it very much thought. So it comes up when Joe Burrow's house is, there's an attempted robbery that has an SI.
Wasn't attempted.
Has a robbery and has an SI swimsuit model at home who works for him, and people are enjoying whatever that is. But I was not expecting this yesterday from Tua, when just out of nowhere, he's like, come into my house. See how that goes for you.
I have personal security just because my house had gotten broken into, not necessarily my house, but one of my cars. And so it's a little too close for my comfort with my family being in the house. So we got personal security to take care of all of that when we're on the road. We got someone with my wife, got someone also at the house surveying the house. So just to let that be known, they are armed. So I hope if you decide to go to my house, you think twice.
Was that David during that clip saying, I do that too?
It's that I was robbed too, and I had personal security as well, because you have the view that it will help you. And then you realize if someone wants you, they want you. And burglars really have nowhere to go but athletes, because with remote working post-COVID, people are home all the time now. So
Don't sound too excited about it.
Well, no, it's a nightmare if you're a burglar. You have to go to a place where people are out. They're not looking to find the armed guard.
I'm picturing a burglar doing it back in my day.
Back in my
Empty
days.
homes.
You can go anywhere.
9 to 5. You were good.
COVID, man, it crushed
Ring
me.
cams.
I never
Now
got,
everyone's got an OnlyFans, and they work their own hours.
I never got it confirmed, but I was told at one point, and it made sense when you're talking about these kinds of economies, that LeBron's home in South Florida, because it was on water, had frogmen. Like, had people to make sure that you weren't coming the back way either. Like, you weren't coming by sea either. I didn't know to think that Tua would have to need security around his home to make sure that somebody, I wouldn't have considered it, honestly.
There's a ton of neighborhoods in South Florida that the cars get broken into. You're told even when you live behind a gate, in back when I was down here, they would say, lock your cars in the driveway of a nice area in Plantation. Lock your cars.
Doesn't everyone lock their cars always?
That's the whole point, right?
I always would.
Not in action movies. The keys are always up on that visor, and I don't understand it. Like,
Idiots.
where is this? I mean, what kind of life of security must you live?
Well, wait a second. Didn't you have your key in your car for like 3 years?
That was a mistake. I had no idea it was there. Yeah, I had a spare key that was like in the. Someone could have just like walked up to my car and just driven it away.
So you were saying, what kind of movies are this, and it's your life? It could have just
Yeah,
happened.
but it wasn't in the
accident.
visor.
It's in the
It wasn't
visor.
in the
glove
visor.
compartment, though.
Was it in the crack in between the seats
Ah,
that
the
you
crack.
couldn't get to?
I don't recall. It might have been in the crack.
Yeah. Once it's in the crack, you don't go back. You can't find it.
Yep.
My hands are too small. Stuff just gets
I
gone.
can
Oh, you can fit a lot in that.
I can
crack.
get some stuff out of the crack.
Can you guys tell me what's real, what's not real when it comes to Jimmy Butler, these reports, Bernard Lee entering the fray? The agents, it should be known, throughout sports are real and legitimate power brokers. They have relationships with the general managers. The best power structures in the NBA know to have relationships with the business of agents so that they can have good relationships with Jimmy Butler. The reports that have been leaked now, Shams is saying, and Shams is credible, that Jimmy Butler would also consider Phoenix as a landing spot, even though that would be hard for a number of different apron and financial concerns to go along with Golden State and Dallas and Houston. The part that surprised me, and I wasn't sure what the motive was, Bernard Lee was, his agent, said, all right, listen, he's talking to Shams here, I gave you a pass yesterday because I was busy, but if you don't stop putting my name on your complete and utter made-up bullshit because you know you normally aren't worth my time to acknowledge. I've not seen an agent go after one of the information guys that way. I will tell you that Shams, and I don't look, everyone needs agents as sources, but Woj had agents and management. Shams is players. Shams is also agents, but Shams is a lot younger. I haven't seen Bernard Lee didn't and wouldn't do that to Woj. So what's happening there?
I have no idea what's happening there. He comes out firing. He clearly has some long-standing issue with Shams whenever he reports on Jimmy Butler, I guess specifically. This was unexpected, and you don't really see anybody going at Shams specifically like this.
Is this a different tweet if he takes out, all right, listen. Like, if this just starts, I gave you a pass. Like, I love that first sentence. Yeah. All right,
made up bullshit.
Listen,
and then read.
Yeah, I think even people went after Woj a little bit. LeBron's camp would go after Woj through their different avenues. I don't think I've ever really seen anything like this as it pertains to Shams, who once reported before anyone that Donald Trump got COVID.
What Chris Cody is saying there is important, and I think it needs to be inspected, okay? Because Chris Cody has stopped correctly on Bernard Lee jumping into the fray with, all right, listen.
Then read.
No, well, he's got a finger up. That's right. You're going to read now, but let's pretend it's listen because I've gotten your attention. The fact that you think that has more threatening behind it than complete and utter made-up bullshit directed at a credible journalist, complete and utter made-up bullshit is the part that got my attention because Woj and Shams don't often get it wrong. Agents lie all the time. Why is he doing this unless Shams has it wrong?
So, but how does this end? Because there needs to be a victor here. If this ends with Jimmy Butler getting traded to one of the teams that Shams outlined before, then that's a whole lot of pomp and circumstance for you to end up being wrong in the end.
This is what I'm
Can he be right now and then wrong in the end?
What I'm asking you guys is this, because we have seen how valuable information is in the information business. Shams and Woj and Schefter, like there are 5 or 7 of these people who you just trust that their information is correct. You just trust that it is, even in the face of someone who's got credibility saying complete and utter made-up bullshit. And so I'm asking you guys, where do you side on this? Because most often, or to every degree that I can ever remember, when Shams reports it, it's correct.
Don't they have a beef going back to like 2021 when Jimmy's agent called him like an ambulance chaser or like a clickbait chaser or something like that? Like this is a long-standing feud.
That's where the all right listen
right?
comes from.
Yep.
The baggage.
There was an issue
am
with
I
an
remembering
injury,
this right?
And with an injury where he denied that there was a sprain, and then the Heat announced, by the way, there's a sprain. It turns out that the agent is highly incentivized to lie, and you're going to think that's a take as an executive. But for Shams, when his currency, and he's new at this now, in this
he's not new. Look,
in the pole position, he's brand new.
No, but what he's not new at is this dude gets it right. Like the reason he's got the name that he does, it's not just because he gets it first, plenty, and he does. It's because he always gets it right. It's not some of the times. It's not even most of the time. It's like no real stains on getting it wrong. The value of his information is that you know that it's true.
And everything's going through Shams right now, right? Because Woj is not in the game anymore. So he's getting a ton of this information. He probably got a lot of sources that were people that were going for Woj. My question is, why don't the Heat just be like, nope, not true, shut it down?
Well, Mickey Arison retweeted Bernard Lee's tweet, so maybe that's some sort of cosign. But this is the first time an agent's ever lied, right? Is this posturing? Is this 4D chess where, no, this is bullshit, it's not part of the Suns trying to drive the price up?
I will tell you this. The Heat, as a matter of policy, just simply don't comment on this stuff. But I will tell you, this isn't even Pat Riley's viewpoint, that Mickey Arison, I don't think there's much of anything in the world he has less use for than the reporting around his sport. And he doesn't value what the information guys do as truth because the Miami Heat doesn't talk to anybody. And so any perspective that's coming out on the Miami Heat is coming from somebody who's outside of the organization. This particular thing, though, The Miami Heat are in a critical time, and we have watched a history-making era of basketball where Pat Riley is trying to get one last time at the throne, and he's so very close. And it's Bam at the rim against Tatum, and now the Celtics have wildly outgrown the Miami Heat, and the last vestiges of what the Heat had challenging the Celtics are this old contract that we know is going to age poorly. You've got to get something for him before he opts out and you go into next postseason without him. But you're not likely to get something better than Jimmy Butler that then makes you better than Boston unless you involve a third team. What are you shaking your head about?
If he opts out, then it didn't age poorly. It means that he's worth even more than what.
No, but are we also to ignore what Jimmy did in the offseason? Hey, those purple and gold uniforms look good. Like we're just going to pretend everything is just kumbaya over here in Miami. This is part of the Jimmy Butler playbook, and this is how he kind of operates, especially when there's seeds or beyond seeds of him outgrowing a place, which has happened several times.
But I pair this with the reports out of Golden State where a hungry champion with a star on his last legs insists on surrounding him with a player who would look like Jimmy Butler if you're trying to go all win now on let's capitalize what we just came back from on the Olympics. And now the reports are out there. Well, Golden State would like LeBron and Jimmy Butler to join Steph because Steph deserves to have the surroundings. What he's built in Golden State, he deserves for Golden State to go all in with all of their passion. And instead of Steve Kerr getting kicked out of games, management is doing everything they can to get two players like Steph Curry to get him to age with grace.
A lot of people want a lot of things, though. They don't always get what they want, especially when the Miami Heat want a superstar to demand a trade. Look, I want Aaron Taylor Johnson's abs. I'm craving them.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, is he from that the Craven movie?
Yeah. The new Bond.
I found out.
Oof, that thing sucks.
Oh. Is he going to be the new Bond?
He's going to be. The rumor is he's the new Bond, and you may have seen The Savages with Blake Lively. That's him too.
I haven't.
And you know what else he's in? Nosferatu.
Oh, that's what I know him from. Did you see it? Was it good?
I'm going to see it Christmas Day night.
Ooh.
I want to talk about Nosferatu in a second, but getting back to what are you doing?
I'm coming out of a casket. Well, sarcophagus. Don't call it a casket because in Nosferatu we don't. What
are the Satan names?
Undertaker.
Beelzebub, Nosferatu, like
No, Nosferatu is not a Satan name. It's the name for the undead, the vampire.
But it's a form of great evil. Okay, I thought it was Satan related. I'm sorry. Nosferatu is just the greatest of the vampires. I've seen him wandering around the smoke on a boat. On the trailer for Nosferatu.
You've seen Nosferatu? Because no one's really seen him.
Ship.
All you get is just the
David,
eyes.
enough.
Oh. This is, who directed this film? Robert Eggers, the guy that did The Lighthouse. This is his fourth feature film. He did The Witch, he did The Northman, The Witch, and he did The Lighthouse, which is a Christmas movie. So this is the most marketing he's ever had behind it. I'm literally wearing a collaboration for a cologne. I'm so hyped for this. Christmas Day night. The cinematography is going to be incredible.
And said or posted or something all of this perfume or cologne, wondering
haunting.
Like it's really something. He's on.
Do you want to smell it? It smells like Count Orlok's cave.
I can't smell it.
It smells okay.
Thank you.
It does smell like a cave.
It does smell like a cave, but a nice cave.
I could see what they were going for.
An inviting cave. So basically, this is just a remake of the 1922 silent film, the seminal German silent film that was basically Bram Stoker's Dracula, but without using the names. So it's a darker twist on this because the Count is actually undead. Even though it's Dracula, it doesn't go by Dracula. It goes by Orlok. And it's supposed to be incredible. And this is a seminal movie event. It comes out Christmas Day night. And all the little goth kids and all the little emos and all the little vampy kids are going to be super excited because Eggers always delivers. All four of his films, over 90% on the Rotten Tomatoes meter, including this one.
So are you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Which one's Pattinson?
Edward. Oh, my Lord. That's the seminal movie, not this Nostradamus thing.
What?
What?
Nosferatu.
You haven't seen. Look,
Yes.
Neither of you guys know what it is, so you're not allowed to talk about it.
You haven't seen the 1922 silent film. You're a cinephile. That should be like required viewing for anybody.
Didn't Warner Herzog make a Nosferatu in the 70s?
I did, and he did, and I watched it last week. And this one, they don't call him Nosferatu or Count Orlok. He's just Dracula, but he looks Nosferatu. Like 1922. Now everybody's got their original names. Lots of rats in that film.
I thought I saw a trailer for Nosferatu that was him floating over a ship in the smoke. That's the trailer of what it is that you're talking about.
Was that the last voyage of the Demeter? That one stunk.
Regardless.
In all the Dracula lore.
Two things I wanted to talk about off of what you were saying. First of all, Lamar Jackson was trending yesterday, correct? Because he says he prefers a female scent, getting back to what you guys were talking about on the cologne. But I also wanted to talk about what David said about the next Bond and what's going to happen with the next Bond. Daniel Craig was asked what he thought should happen with the next Bond, and his response surprised me. His response was just, I don't care. There have only been a handful of Bonds. It's a treasured position. It is one of the great movie franchises of all time.
He doesn't own any part of it.
Can we spoil? It's been years now. We can spoil what happened in the last Bond, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, spoiler alert for people that haven't watched the last Bond. James Bond is dead.
What?
He died.
007, that is.
Yeah.
He comes back.
No, 007 is still around. See, that's where it gets also right. You think 007
No, that's a title. That's a title.
Yeah, no, James Bond, James Bond, dead. I don't really know how they come back from this one.
By hiring Aaron Taylor Johnson and his abs.
Dude, those abs are sick.
They're so
I remember in
good.
the Dracula book, he's on a ship, Dan. Doesn't he take a ship to England?
Yeah,
I remember
the Demeter, or is it Demeter? Either
Yeah.
way. Yeah, there was a whole bad movie made on just that ship voyage, which is super frustrating because I'm like, guys, look for it during the day. All these bad things are happening at night. It's right, it's a ship.
good point.
You're not covering a lot of ground. Just look for it during the day. We all know where all this stuff is coming from. There's dirt everywhere coming from these caskets. Guys are missing. Just look for it during the day.
This is a good segue because it's been 2 weeks in the making. I started a show and then I wandered away from it. I was talking to Tony at the beginning of a show about the top 5 movies that he'll stop on every single time he's flipping through the channels. Look, they're putting this beefcake up here now.
Take it out of preview and into the
here's
program.
Here's the new Bond.
You know, he did the reverse Belichick. His partner's a
He
much
coaches in
older
the
woman.
NFL now?
This dude is having his moment right now.
The reverse Belichick. So this is the new Bond. The new Bond has abs. How many Bonds have there been? 4, 5 ever?
It's reckless journalism. He hasn't been named. I said he's rumored. So that's not reckless. I don't think I get the button.
No,
for
you
I
do
think
not.
much more than 4 or 5. You got Connery, Moore, Daltrey,
Dalton.
Dalton.
Not Roger Daltrey.
He
Timothy
wasn't.
Dalton.
Daltrey wasn't one of. Is he
That's the
in the
Who.
Who? Who?
So it's been 6. It's been 6 Bonds. There haven't been very many of them, and so.
But why would he care? He's not getting paid. He doesn't own any part of the IP.
There's 7 total. 007.
Oh, look at that.
Is that why they killed him? They're like, we can't have an 8th.
So you're
there was one more 007 because for a moment 007 is assumed by another person in the last one. Right. So
Like
there have been
Doctor
more
Who.
007s than James Bonds.
Right.
How about this? I have noticed while watching everybody get in on this conversation, and if I scan the room, even Roy has wanted to get in, but there's been somebody who's been hiding in the shadows, but in plain sight. It would appear, based on the look in Chris Cody's eyes, that he has not seen a single Bond movie.
I've played the video game. That's about my
GoldenEye?
extent.
He's
played-
never seen Indiana
I've
Jones.
played
He's never
GoldenEye.
seen James Bond. What's wrong with this guy, dude?
Never seen
Octopussy?
never seen a single
Watch
James.
your
I've
mouth.
seen Austin Powers. That's the closest I've gotten to James Bond.
How do you
Jesus
get the
Christ.
jokes without?
I played GoldenEye.
It's a great question, Mike.
You should watch James Bond to really unlock this movie because I know you like it.
I still thought it was funny.
Is there still isn't it Spike TV? Wasn't that the channel that used to replay all the Bonds around Christmas time? This is the best time of year to watch all the Bond movies. There's usually TV marathons.
Yeah.
Which one do I start on?
Well, they're streaming now. Of course, you can get them anytime you
You
want.
want to know my
Yeah,
high?
but there's nothing like turning on cable over the Christmas vacation
Thank
and
you,
just
Jess.
seeing
The commercials?
7 Bonds in a
That's
row.
right.
You know my concept for where to take the James Bond franchise since he's now dead? You go back in time. You take the source material and you do period pieces from when those books were written. Noir.
Let me get Broccoli on the phone, and we'll get right on that.
The story of little Jimmy Bond.
How many brands, movie brands, Fast and the Furious, whatever it is you want to choose, would you stack up and say bigger than the Bond franchise? Just ever?
Mission Impossible.
Rocky, all of them?
Godfather.
Harry Potter,
So-
Lord of the Rings,
so three-
Who's
Star
more-
Wars.
Who's been bigger at the box office? Because James Bond has more films. But let's look it up. The James Bond versus the MI franchise.
You have to adjust, though, for time.
Wait
You
a
have to
minute.
adjust.
Wait a minute. I don't think we can trust David on this. David just put up 2 Godfathers, not even the third one. He just put up 2 Godfathers
said
against
franchises.
No, but against all the Bonds movies.
There's no way the box office
against all the Bonds movies.
I was just channeling Adnan.
I understand Godfather is great, but I'm asking for franchise for all time. You can pick one and you've got to win this game. You've got to be the biggest franchise in movie history. If I go all in with the Bond franchise, I'm feeling decent about my hand. I don't know. I'm asking the rest of you to give me some stuff you'd put against it, but I'm guessing that if you've only had 7 Bonds ever and you've been able to keep a franchise alive since the 60s, Mission Impossible took a long break between the 60s. All the Bonds have been relatively relevant through, 6, 7 decades now?
I think I would take Jurassic Park over it. I would take potentially Star Wars for sure. Lord of the Rings has more meat on that bone. Harry Potter, I'd probably take it over James Bond.
I watched Dune the other night. Not there yet, but they're starting to spin that baby off.
I wasn't a big Dune guy, cinematically.
Do you like Timothée?
I do.
Chalamet?
I wanted to like Dune, but I just didn't.
Didn't everybody love him on College Game Day?
I feel like he smelled good there.
Oh, yeah. No, I think he might actually know ball, or he really prepared for this role. He was probably the best guest picker in ages. He was phenomenal.
I have a hot take about Timothée Chalamet on Game Day. I'm a big Timothée Chalamet fan. Love his work with all of Greta Gerwig's films.
There's a butt coming.
He's a 28-year-old man, and people were losing their minds that he knew anything about football. I'm sorry. Since when do we just assume theater kids don't watch any sports? He lives in New York. He probably gambles on the weekends on the MAC championship game like we all do.
He invoked Maction, which right then
and he was right, by the way. Ohio spanked Miami.
Oof. I love that people would underestimate the theater kid and give him bonus points because he knows a little about college football.
Yeah, but was he running lines?
Yes.
That's what people are accusing him, because his stats were so detailed, and it wasn't like just things you'd come off the cuff. It was
he was prepped.
Yeah, it was
Who's kidding? Did you watch it? It looked like he was performing. It was performative almost.
It can be performative. I'm more interested in what she's saying, which is the just general underestimation of a 28-year-old pretty boy because you think he can't know anything about college football.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's usually not something that's afforded to a 28-year-old man, especially appearing on one of cable TV's most popular sports shows.
You would think, right? Yeah. Although I guess people were assuming that he would just be all Broadway and couldn't know anything about Ohio beating Miami of Ohio.
Why, thank you, Reese. I would like to make a pick.
Yes, real. You would make a great flamboyant. Let's do that. Let's.
I think we did it. We did it. We had fun with
it's
it.
like the birdcage.
I think the window has closed.
We should make a football musical.
We should do that. Who's done that?
I want Chris Cody to do flamboyant Broadway performer, but
it's not going to be better than it was.
Let's get to Tony's.
By the way, you mentioned Dune real quick, and we'll get to Tony. Did you see the casting news regarding Austin Butler?
Oh, I did. Tell us.
I am not happy about this. Dan, I know you like American Psycho. It's one of my favorite films, top 5 film for me, one of the greatest dark comedies ever made. Don't touch it. But they're remaking it, or a new spin on an old classic. Austin Butler has been cast as Patrick Bateman, according to reports. I don't like this one bit.
As Elvis.
That part's not true.
But they told him to do the Elvis accent the whole time.
He's been doing the Elvis accent all the time since he did the movie.
He was forced to stop, actually.
Dan, did you like Elvis?
I happen to know.
The last act.
Christian Bale, that was my introduction to him. Was American Psycho. I don't know who else is. That is where I discovered that somebody was a good actor. I do not need that remade, but I am trying to get over to where Tony was for several weeks now. I've been trying to get over to that corner of the room and the movies that he will stop on every time, and now we're finally here.
But Tony, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think Austin Butler straddles the line between genius and hack, the way that Walken and Nicolas Cage did? Because I kind of think he's bordering on bad actor.
But so bad that he's good?
That he's becoming a bit of a caricature of himself, and you don't do that in your 20s. Like he's going to, I guarantee you, here's my bold prediction for Austin Butler. 10 years from now, he's going to make an appearance that will revitalize his career in a comedy where he pokes fun at himself because he's just become too outrageous a human. He's not a real person.
And who is the greatest example of that in acting? Is it Busey? Is it Gary Busey?
Busey, Cage, Walken. These are the guys. Good job invoking Busey. He belongs in that class.
He doesn't belong in the class with Nick Cage.
In
Nick
terms
Cage
of
is
cartoon
a brilliant
characters?
actor. He's not. Nick Cage is a brilliant actor who actually, one of the best movies he's made recently was him playing himself. And I'm completely blanking because I'm just
He's
ready to get
straddling
to
the
Tony.
line. He's straddling the line. It's a very thin line. Look, it's gone. We've seen Nick Cage straddle the line and go well over the line and become a punchline. This guy's crazy. It looks like Bad Lieutenant.
It's because he needed the money.
OLI. It's a long list, Dano.
He's made a lot of movies. Nick Cage has made a lot of movies while trying to pay the IRS, I think. And he buys a bunch of dinosaur bones and everything else.
All I'm saying is that if any other 28-year-old man were on College Game Day and was doing college football picks, you guys wouldn't be like, oh, my God, he knows football?
It was weird. It was the
It's
reaction.
flamboyant.
They wanted him. They wanted him to not know anything, and the bar was very low on Chalamet. OLI.
Any Mission Impossible movie. That's just starting to get the beak wet. You know what I mean? Like I'm scrolling through and it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's Fallout? Ooh, I'm in. I'm watching the entire thing.
The movie that David was thinking of is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent on Nicolas Cage is what he was looking for there. I'm sorry, keep going.
Also a synonym for my top 5. Another set of movies that I will always stop on. Any James Bond film I will be locked in on.
So look, I stumbled into it by
Yes,
mistake.
surprising. I think
yes,
that's a late ad.
It was unprepared.
That's a late ad by Tony.
No, that's not. These are all part of it. All right.
Getting entire franchises.
Well, no, because obviously there's many movies. You're talking about 7 movies.
No,
in
but what
these
he's
2
saying,
franchises.
he's going off of what Jessica said, which is during the holidays, I don't necessarily associate this with the holidays, but if there is a slow time over these next 10 days at the end of the month, and there's a Bond marathon somewhere,
You're locked in.
I'm going to get hypnotized for about 20 minutes on whatever's going on there. Like I'm going to get stopped, and I will not move on from that. I will stop in on Bond.
Nobody channel surfs anymore.
I'm just telling you, I'll do that around Bond, around Mission Impossible.
Thank you. All right, next one. Still in the only lie, by the way. Coming to America. The original one, obviously. The second one we don't really
first.
acknowledge. Yeah. The sequel we don't acknowledge. But
So, Mike, on American Psycho, you don't want it made? Like, you don't think, because he
No.
just mentioned Coming to America, we didn't need the remake. The first one was fine.
No, and I
It's
don't
a
like
sequel. It's a
the
sequel.
first one was
I
great.
just don't like the Austin Butler casting either as Patrick Bateman. He can play like one of the other ancillary roles. Like, give him Thoreau's role. No, don't give him Patrick Bateman.
It's been perfected. I don't need to see someone else in the role.
that dude from Euphoria and Saltburn. That should be Patrick Bateman.
Lordy.
Barry
Lordy.
Kehoe?
No, Lordy.
No, a lordy, duh.
Oh, the tall,
He's got a
handsome
beard
guy.
now. It looks weird with the beard.
Oh, he doesn't.
Samson,
Very
what are you
Haven't
doing
seen it yet,
there?
though.
What are you doing that you're trying to summon a name to play the game that you know somebody and then you get it wrong? Like, what do you? Why?
I've always gotten
why-
his name
no,
wrong.
but no,
Like
but-
Saris
but
Rhyme.
why? What are you offering to the conversation by limping in by
I'm trying to
floating
get back
up
to
with
Tony.
Barry something or another? And what are you contributing to the conversation?
Tony?
The one who was dating Sabrina Carpenter. We know who. We were all on the same page as
Ended
David.
badly.
Yes, you could say that again.
Tony?
Say it again.
Scarface. Anytime, no matter what time. It's a 3-hour movie, so anytime that it comes on, I'll catch it right when the blimp's going over. The world is yours, and I'm like, you know what? The world is mine. Thank you.
When is that going to stop being a thing, Tony? Because that's the same for me. Your list, I have never heard a list that has had this kind of kindred
Holding up a
spirit.
mirror to you, Dan.
I will stop. It does not matter when Scarface is in it just doesn't matter. I'm going to get to where Frank Lopez is dead and he's offering Ernie a job.
Every
Spoiler
dog has
alert.
his day, Frank. OLI number whatever. Hateful Eight.
Really?
Really?
I'm a big fan of Hateful Eight.
The worst of the Tarantino
I
movies.
don't say the worst.
Bummer.
There's other bad ones. But
I don't
the
think
bottom
he
of my Tarantino
He
list.
does not make any bad ones. I think that's the worst of. He has not made a bad one.
Goggins kills it in that one, though.
He was great in that.
he's incredible.
Oh, and all the characters are great, but that movie. Look, I don't even think it's an insult to call something the worst of the Tarantino movies.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is not better than Hateful Eight. We'll just start there.
It is a million
Way
times
better.
better.
I don't
A
know
million
about that.
times better, and
I don't know
Austin
about
Butler actually kills that assignment.
Wow, Jessica really gave you a side eye.
That's
there.
fine.
Hateful Eight's a terrible movie.
She doesn't like Hateful Eight.
If
guess
Hateful
what?
Eight was made by somebody else, I don't think we'd give it this much of a runway to be like, well, it's, it's just a little.
We would have not even watched it.
You
Guess
would have been
what?
like, this might just be bad.
Not your list.
Yep.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No, he's right. I'm going to go see Taylor.
On Tony's list is something that both Mike and Jessica are reducing to
That's fine.
terrible.
you
stuff
seen-
for
David.
Have you seen all the
Tarantino?
Tarantinos?
I agreed.
I've basically seen every single one of them.
Which
yeah.
one haven't you seen? Basically is different than seeing them all.
I don't remember. I remember starting Jackie Brown. I didn't finish it.
Oh, Jackie Brown's
So
a
good.
It is good.
I didn't
See,
finish it.
It's
yeah.
one of his best.
A little
Yes.
slow in the beginning, so I
Yes.
kind of tuned out.
See,
Went
this-
to Mission
beginning.
Impossible.
You know, you guys see what's happening here, right?
It's getting bad.
Tarantino made an action movie with a lot of killing. It's a bit of a western. Jackie Brown. Let's move it along, Jackie Brown. I don't like
Exploitation.
I don't like the.
A little slow.
No, he saw Django, the one with
I saw
action.
Django.
Yeah, he
Django's
saw
incredible.
the Western with action.
Okay, there's a theme
Kill
here.
Bills. I mean, come on.
The tapestry. Tony needs a little action in his movie.
Come on. Yeah. Now you know why my wife and I don't watch movies together. Next one of the OLI. This is the last of the OLIs.
We're still in OLIs.
Yeah, of course. No, don't. Indiana Jones. Any of them, except for the ones that like the Crystal Skull, the Compass one. Those all suck. The original,
any.
the original Indiana Jones. Okay, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade. Any of those, I will go out and watch, and if they're on, I will stop every single time.
Tony, this is what we are as kindred spirits. If I was playing right now a game show with my wife that was about knowing each other, like we would both know that the thing that causes her the most shame about me is that she will walk into a room where I'm watching Indiana Jones and she will hit me with an again.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
The Newlywed Game is a game. There is a game like
Is
that.
it still there? Are we still playing the Newlywed Game? Is that still a televised game show? Is that still something that's on?
If you channel surf, you
On
can find
cruise
it.
ships, they still play it.
Do they?
He catches the date in the air.
Roy,
Bad
did you play it
dates.
on your cruise ship?
No.
Did you go watch it?
No.
Everyone goes to watch it. Come on. They
I
get
did
three
not.
couples up there. They get a young couple, they get a middle
No.
couple, and then a really old couple. They're always so adorable.
Did not happen.
Roy, did you interact with others on this cruise ship?
Hell no.
So there was no community, anything. You didn't go to a show. You didn't talk to a stranger. You just stared at the sea for 4 days.
That's right.
Come on. I know you went to the sailing away party.
No.
Come on. Up on deck 10.
I
Bingo?
did not.
White party.
No, they went to bingo. I joined them late.
You showed up late to bingo?
I didn't know where they were.
Just at the bow of the ship, like.
So Roy won a staring contest with the sea.
Are you the old man from The Old Man in the Sea?
Yes.
You went to the lifeboat drill. You have to go to that.
Nobody went to the lifeboat
Wait,
drill.
it's a mustard
Isn't
drill.
that
What
mustard?
mustard station were you?
Mandatory.
Play it, mustard.
Scene,
Scene 14.
Mustard.
This is one of the few windows.
There you go. All right, continuing the old lie. We got a couple left.
You said that was the last
No,
one.
no, no. I
Have
was
you
wrong.
considered a
I was
top
wrong.
10?
Oh, Christ, man.
Ocean's 11. Nobody's smooth than Danny Ocean, Dan. You know that. That's another movie you'll stop on every time. True or not true?
I do like the Oceans movies. In fact, Andy Garcia is going to be on South Beach Sessions here in a couple of weeks, and I couldn't stop staring into his eyes just
Wow.
because of whatever it is that Oceans does.
Big
Look,
get.
There are certain movies, Indiana Jones is obviously this, but that will just transport you back to a time where you could just turn your brain off and be a child. And it's everything that's on Tony's list. every single thing is turning his brain off.
Number 5. Thank you. This is a 2-for-1, actually. So it's 5, but it's 2-for-1.
Everyone is
Just make
multiple
a top
movies.
10.
No, I
man.
can't. There's too many. Godfather 1 and 2.
Bigger than Bond.
Lighthouse better be on this.
I've never seen it. Number 4, Goodfellas.
It's not on anyone's list, Mike.
It's
Nobody's.
it's on
Number
my top 10 holiday
3.
films.
Training Day. Number 2, Inglourious Bastards. Probably the best movie Tarantino's ever made.
Agreed.
Thank
we
you.
agree there. You had one bad take on Tarantino,
That's
but
fine.
you rallied.
That's fine.
Goodfellas is the I amuse you. I'm a clown. Is that one?
Are you asking?
Yeah, I just get them mixed up. I get Casino, Goodfellas. They're all like the same.
Pesci does kind of
actors.
do the same thing in both of them.
I amuse you. I'm a
Yes,
clown.
that's
Funny
Yes,
like a
that's
clown.
That's the one, yeah.
That's it.
Is put it on the poll, Juju. Is Inglourious Bastards the best of the Tarantino movies?
Easily.
And also put on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood better than The Hateful Eight? And also put on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is The Hateful Eight terrible?
Number 1, Dan, this is a movie that started this entire list because it's the movie that no matter what time of the movie it's on, I will watch it and I will watch it to its entirety. Yes, he was a rat, but it doesn't matter. Number 1, Denzel in American Gangster.
Wow, I thought
I thought you were doing
Departed.
No.
I was like, yep.
No.
He's a rat.
No.
He's a rat.
He was
a cop.
He wasn't a cop. He was a rat. That's okay, though, because you know what? This is $25,000 alpaca. You don't wipe it. You blot that shit.
Yeah, I like his list. It was an excellent list. I think David's would be so much different than yours. If
Mine would have Ed TV on it.
how
I don't
many?
even know what that is.
Ed TV.
If we had to do a list for you, you could do one probably off the top of your head that would be even longer than his. Would you not?
I could get it down to 5
can be
quickly,
shorter.
easily.
All right. Well, let's do it quickly then.
Number 5, A Few Good Men. Every single time.
You can't handle the truth.
That's the movie.
Ayu.
Number 4, Fletch.
Fletch is a great movie. I will.
gonna
That should have been
laugh my ass
OLI.
off.
Fletch is great. 6'4", 6'8" with the afro.
That's very
I
true.
can't believe that you
You
and
like that
Tony
one out of
are
the holster,
connecting
Dano?
on Fletch. Tony has never known one of the old movies that you're talking about. When you go 1970s on Tony, you always lose Tony. How does he know Fletch?
Because that's from the 80s, and you get the afro joke.
Number 3.
Number 3, Ed TV. That's Matthew McConaughey, Jenna Elfman. It was the beginning of the Kardashians. Who doesn't want to watch that?
Number 2. Nobody here, evidently. Number 2.
Nope. No.
Everyone here.
I've
is
never seen that. I
staring
don't
I
know
at
haven't
what it
you.
gotten around to it.
Everyone
seen
here.
it.
I've heard of it.
I'd rather watch a Truman Show.
Did you not see the general indifference and the blank stares looking back at you? Nobody knew what
Like,
you were
this concept
talking
was
about.
done better with Jim Carrey, so I just
Yeah.
kept moving on.
Number 2, Castaway. I love The Lonely and Castaway. I will watch that. I'll actually make sure I find it.
I
to
love
watch.
The Lonely.
He was on Survivor, of course. This is very of his genre.
Number 1.
And the number 1 movie that I will always watch, Stranger Than Fiction.
A terrible list.
Weird list.
Mine was way better, right?
Both
It
sucked.
was.